Welcome to Let Me Know How It Is, a pop culture podcast about animation, TV, movies, comics, and more. This is part 2 of our review of the first season of Amazon's new animated series, Batman Caped Crusader. I'm Zach Slater.
I'm Frank Melman.
And I'm Clifton.
So we already hit episodes 1 through 3 in part 1, so check that out if you missed it. We also reviewed the trailer for Batman Caped Crusader when it first dropped a couple of months ago. So if you want to compare our thoughts today to our initial reactions when the trailer came out, that could be fun to see how our minds have changed. So go ahead and check that out as well. It's a short one. It's only about 30 minutes. But all right, let's begin with episode 4. Episode 4, The Night of the Hunters, written by Ed Brubaker and directed by Christina Sada. Open with a news montage of Man on the Street reporting on the city's thoughts on Batman. Most people believe he needs to be caught because he's breaking the law, but some people support what he's doing and others are just afraid to go out at night. Closes on Mayor Jessup leading a press conference discussing the Batman and how he's now going after Gotham's brave police, referencing Eel O'Brien's pictures of Batman beating up Bullock and Flash from the Catwoman episode previously. That's episode 3. The mayor announces a new task force to take down the Batman and then quietly tells Gordon, who's behind him, that he better not screw this up. And then they roll the open. In the police station, we see Bullock is sporting a neck brace, and he's walking with Commissioner Gordon, protesting Montoya being chosen to lead the task force. He believes that he and Flash should be in charge. Gordon disagrees, however. He says Thorne has taken over the Narrows, and because of them, specifically, he has to waste resources chasing a shadow. Nonetheless, Gordon expects Bullock and all the other cops to respect the chain of command and follow Montoya's orders. They enter the briefing, led by Montoya, which is detailing all the information they have on Batman on their Batman board. They have like a conspiracy Batman board, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He operates in the East End mostly between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. He has a fast car. He beats up drug dealers and muggers. And he isn't scared of the police. Montoya notes that he's put a few officers in the hospital over the last month, and they joke about Bullock because he's got a neck brace on, and Flash tells his partner to bide his time while he thinks of something. Montoya has a plan to trap the Batman. So we'll stop here for now. So a few familiar faces in this briefing.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys caught them.
Who were they?
Frank, you want to take it?
Well, one of the big ones that jumped out was Officer Corrigan.
Sure.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which makes me wonder, at what stage of the game are we getting Jim Corrigan?
Mm-hmm.
If you know your DC stuff, he's the Spectre. I don't think he's the Spectre yet.
No, certainly not yet.
Which makes me wonder if at some point we're going to delve into that. I don't know because I haven't watched the whole season yet. That was cool.
Yep.
Are you talking about like when they go to the actual streets? That part?
Well, they note Chandler is in the briefing. That's Romy Chandler, so she's a character from Gotham Central.
Right.
As is Corrigan.
Right.
Towards the end.
Right.
And then there's another character that pops up from Gotham Central that is in the very next scene, which is Driver.
Right. Yeah. Which was a nice bit.
Yeah.
Bit.
So
I enjoyed
that. it's a Brubaker. He's involved with the show. He's a producer on the show, but this is a Brubaker episode, and we're seeing populated with some characters from his book that he did with Greg Rucka, Gotham Central.
Great book.
Which is the first time a lot of these characters have been animated.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We also got something and again, it was one of the things where I didn't catch it the first time. I saw it somewhere else before I actually saw the episode. One of the reporters, when they're doing the Man on the Street bit with the mayor, one of the reporters looks an awful lot like Lois from the Fleischer cartoons.
Yes.
Oh,
yes, she does.
Which I thought was a nice bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So having Lois Lane sort of cameo, we think.
It's a nice Easter egg.
She's not name checked or anything, but it's pretty much the design from the Fleischer cartoons for sure. Was nice. I like that. That was a great bit. But yeah, Romy Driver was nice. Corrigan, like I said, it depends on where they go. I like the Brubaker has him in it, but doesn't do the thing of like, something. There's no tipping of the hat to what he could possibly be. For all we know, he's just a beat cop for now or detective.
Right. He could be something else.
He could. Yeah. He absolutely could.
Be.
We just don't know yet. So very fun. I thought all that was great.
Yeah.
thought it was interesting just in the open that so the photos that Eel O'Brien took in the previous episode are already in play. Like they're already driving the events of this show. So they didn't wait to pull that trigger at all. There's photos of Batman beating up cops out there, and that's what all of this is about. That's what all this task force talk and everything is about that we get in this episode.
Yeah, I like the fact that we get ramifications right away as well.
Yeah.
There was no like, oh well, maybe not, but no.
Sure. Right. Or are those going to be like hanging over him and maybe they'll come out? No, like he just put him out. Like Eel O'Brien, Batman said, put him out there. It's fine. So Eel O'Brien did.
Whoever the J. Jonah Jameson is of the Gotham Gazette was like, Batman sells papers.
Right.
Get him out there. That kind of thing. So
I was a little surprised that we didn't actually get a close up of the board at any point. I mean,
yeah.
It's a pretty, I mean, like Batman, is it Batman Begins? No, it's Dark Knight. Dark Knight does it pretty great. In opening moments of the Dark Knight, when you get the cops board on Batman, it's like, who is the Batman? And you got like a picture of Bigfoot there and Abraham Lincoln and stuff.
Well, you also get a little bit of that in Batman '89 too, right? With Knox.
Oh,
you might want to give him a little more fangs, a little more blood.
with the Bob Kane drawing.
Right.
Yeah.
That whole thing. Yeah, when Knox is basically, there's a little bit of that too. I mean, it was cool to see. Kind of reminds me of going all the way back to, like, say, the Wall of Weird from Smallville, or I guess an even more contemporary DC or CW show would be like The Flash. For a while, The Flash has that board of all the people that are affected by the Star Labs explosion.
Yeah.
Of people getting powers and stuff. So, no, I mean, those things are always fun. Maybe at this point, they're just not, just indicating that they have one.
Right.
And then maybe they'll flesh it out.
I mean, maybe they'll build up to it. So, all right. So Montoya's plan. We see a number of the cops from that briefing room. They're doing these undercover staging of fake muggings and robberies to smoke out Batman. Batman is always nearby, but he's hidden out of sight, and he never takes the bait. He does stop one though. He takes care of the cop muggers and hangs them by the legs by a light post.
Right.
They radio in for the checkup that he was here, but we didn't see him, and I think we need a fire truck.
That was a good bit.
Yeah, I love the fire truck bit.
That was very funny.
So then we cut to the next night. The cops up the stakes, and they're staging now a car chase with a shootout using blanks. Eel O'Brien hears the chase on his police scanner and enters the fray. And then back in the chase, we see Batman presents himself in the Batmobile. They all switch to live ammo, and they're taking shots at Batman. Batman quickly sees that this is a setup, and he's pinned down, but he gets away, damaging a lot of police cars in the process.
Loves to ram stuff.
Yeah.
O'Brien snaps photos of the immediate aftermath of the cops' failure, and then it's cops left flat-footed by Bat. Is the newspaper headline.
Walkstreet.
Right,
all about it. Yeah.
So then we cut to the next scene, which is the next morning. Harvey Dent is at City Hall making a statement detailing the mayor's failure and that the police task force isn't up to the task. It's embarrassing, and he contrasts how he would run a tighter ship once he's elected to make Gotham proud and strong and safe again.
Yeah.
There's that smarmy Harvey Dent again.
Yeah, waste no time taking advantage of that situation.
Yeah. So how do we think about sort of the Montoya's plan?
Not a bad plan, but she's dealing with somebody who's a little, that aspect of it. I mean, she's had the run-in with Batman. She knows full well what he can do, but I guess they don't know enough. They don't have enough tape on him at this point,
right,
to realize how smart he is.
Right.
It's interesting to see, like, you get that bit in year one in other Batman books where Batman tries, before he gets a costume together, to go out as like the angry old army vet and then fight crime. So I'm sure he's done all this, whatever they're doing, just not as Batman, to get information.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we haven't had like a Matches Malone sighting or any of that kind of stuff to know what he does if he's not being Bruce or Batman, if to see if he's doing anything along those lines. But yeah, it was fun. Like that whole thing was fun. A lot of destruction of property.
Yep.
A lot of stuff that could have gone badly. But, I mean, in those days, if you were watching something from that time, it's not unheard of for Tommy guns to be being fired down the street indiscriminately.
Right. Yeah.
So I liked it.
Yeah.
gave them a chance to use their Batmobile sound effects again. Because those are great. Like I was caught it again this time. I was like, that sounds like a good hot rod.
It does. I really dig. And maybe this is me. I don't know if you guys are getting this too. I mean, I really feel like I get kind of like the shark from Jaws vibe from the Batmobile.
Okay.
A little bit, where it's like I like that he just like appears in it.
Right.
You know, that like that we come into a scene already in motion, and then like there's just a corner turned, and then there's the Batmobile.
Right.
And I really like how it shows up. I mean, it's sort of the idea that he's just out there.
Yeah.
You know, and he's out there kind of in plain sight, but people don't necessarily see him until something's afoot. I just kind of I dig that take.
Right.
Montoya's plan is something that's kind of, you know, reminiscent of year one. We see, I mean, this is extrapolated and bigger and brought in with a lot more cops in this iteration. But there are like there are set up scenes in year one, right, where they have like cops like staging muggings and stuff trying to get him out.
Yeah.
And they do fairly quickly figure out, oh yeah, none of this stuff's working.
Right. Yeah.
Because then they're like, oh, well, like what if we, you know, like put some people on the roofs, and it's like you'd see them. Like if you see in this stuff, you'd see that.
Right.
They're picking good stuff to reference. You know, year one and Gotham Central, pretty great stuff. At least for this Batman fan.
Check your local libraries.
Yeah.
For more information.
Right.
All right. So that night Gordon is in his office. He gets a call from a furious Mayor Jessup about the task force very public failure. He gives Gordon a tongue-lashing earful. Gordon steps out to refill his coffee. It's late. The station is basically all empty. Lights are out. He goes into the conference room where the Batman board is. And in there looking at the board is Batman himself.
Right.
There's a beat. There's like a quiet beat where they just kind of stand and see each other for a second. And then Gordon pulls his gun and chases Batman into the stairwell. He gets a few shots off, but misses. And then Batman makes it to the roof and is able to get away.
Right.
How do we like this?
I liked it. One thing I thought was interesting it goes by pretty quick, and if you're not listening for it, you're not conscious of it. It's an interesting thing that the mayor says to him, because the show so far has addressed a lot of the sexism involved at the time. Like we've seen the episode with Renee that Renee is basically thought less of because she's a woman and because she's a woman detective. You know, as we said before, by Harvey and by Flass and probably by others. The mayor says to Gordon, "You were hired because we needed good press."
Okay.
And that's clearly a jab at the fact that, unlike other versions of Gordon, he's a person of color.
Right.
Right. So he's saying basically, as we have, people that believe in that only certain people today and have been this way for decades are only hired because of the color of their skin or their diversity hires or whatever horrible thing you want to attach to them. He's saying the same thing about Gordon by saying you were hired because we needed the press. Mm-hmm. Even though we all know Gordon's a competent police officer and good at being commissioner, it's a thing that goes by really quick, and I wonder if they're going to do more with it.
Yeah, it does go by fast, and these are the moments where sort of like the setting, I think, where they do a really good job with it. I like that they don't hit you over the head a lot with like there any references to how things are in the 40s. Mm-hmm. They're all kind of like subtle, right? Which I think is very, very cool and does make for kind of a fun game watching the show that you kind of catch it,
Yeah, but again, it was one of those things where I wondered if they were going to, think of the time and where they are in the 40s, I wonder if there was going to be more about it, but the fact that I think that's how they're going to play it is, it's not going to be quite so overt. And it might have been also the fact that I recently got a chance to finally read Superman versus the Klan.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's set around the same time. And a lot of that has both, Gene Luen Yang does a really good job of showing people's subtle kind of bias towards people in it,
right?
Both as well as full out open racism too. Obviously, since you're dealing with the Klan, but there are moments where a police officer gets derided for being, again, a person of color and being competent, But because he's a person of color, he's immediately thought of, well, the only reason you're hired is because of we needed, quote unquote, something like good press.
Right.
So maybe that was what made me catch it. But yeah, it's one of the things where I don't need it to be obviously an overt thing, but having some kind of, acknowledgement of that it would have been difficult for, like Montoya and for Gordon and possibly even for Barbara or Flass for that matter to be in the position to be in the positions they're in. So we'll have to wait and see because again, I haven't finished the season, so I don't know.
Right. So the next scene, Gordon is telling Montoya he was right here in the conference room. Right. He adds the mayor is really leaning on him and Batman is making them all look like fools. Montoya says that they just need more time and the mayor can't expect miracles. But Gordon says that's exactly what he does expect.
Right.
And he adds that Gordon is trying to change the police force and root out the bad cops and corruption. But in order to do that, he needs to keep his job. And they need to catch this Batman, and they need to do it fast, and they need to try something else.
Yep.
So, enter Dr. Harleen Quinzel. She's brought in to build a profile to understand how Batman thinks. Right. She's kept in touch with Montoya since being introduced by Barbara, who happens to be friends with Harley.
Right.
Quinzel's suggestion to catch Batman? Well, he has a thing for costume freaks, so use different bait. She says they need a weirdo. And just like that, Flash sees his opportunity. He and Bullock go to the holding cells and find a freak. They grab Firebug, a costume arsonist, and they grab his outfit and equipment from evidence as well. They rush him outside. Barbara catches them, walking Firebug out. She asks, what are they doing with one of her clients? And they say they have orders to transfer him to Arkham, and she warns him that he's more dangerous than he looks. Barbara enters, asking Jim, her dad, Commissioner Gordon, if he ordered the prisoner transfer. He says no. And then elsewhere, Harley asks Montoya if she will come along to meet Barbara at Gino's. So we'll get to that for a second, too. But, so yeah, so I really dig how fast, like, Flass is like, all right, like...
yeah, plan it together.
Yeah. Like, that's it. Let's do it. Let's do this. That's the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Firebug's an interesting one. This is a character we knew they were going to be using. He was one of the names listed at that end of the voice trailer when Hamish Linklater basically named read the names of all the actors in the show in the Batman voice.
Right.
If you remember, and then at the end of it, they listed all the bad guys in there, some of them.
Right.
So Firebug was one of them. So he's an interesting choice. He's a fun one. Bit of a, well, we'll go a little farther and we'll get more into Firebug.
It was interesting to see, Harleen Quinzel back doing her work, where we see her again as a competent psychologist.
Right.
Following up on the stuff we've seen of her so far in the show. And like, she really does seem to know her stuff. And interesting, she made a mention to an old college professor. So that was a fun little name drop. Dr. Crane.
Yes. Yep.
Not Frasier. Not Frasier.
Niles?
Not Niles.
No.
A different apparently psychologist.
Yes.
Dr. Crane.
Yes.
Scarier one.
Yeah.
But no, like I love the line of "you need a weirdo," where she says, I think she says that seeing those people might remind him of something in himself, and that might be why he's drawn to it. Which, I don't know if that's the truth, but it does work in the context. It does seem to do the trick all the time, so it's not a bad theory.
Yeah. Like when they're getting him out, I love following up on that line is Flass's line about Batman's got a thing for guys with weird names and bad habits.
Yeah.
I thought that was really great.
Yeah.
Did anyone else pick up on the fact that Harley was not just asking Renee, making sure that Renee came to dinner for just to tag along?
Right.
Thought that was an interesting bit. I was like, okay, they're seeding that early. All right.
Yeah.
Thought that was a cool bit. Oh, but I did have a question. Was there more damage to police headquarters than we thought, or not enough damage to police headquarters as we thought?
No, it's a different building.
Okay, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a different design from the Penguin episode when it got blew.
Because I was looking at it going, am I just forgetting? Did I miss something? And I guess I did. I missed that because I had the question in my notes of police headquarters looks fine.
Right. We don't know. We don't know if it's like a different precinct, just like, you know, in a different neighborhood or something. Like, they don't spell it out necessarily like that. I mean, the building they are in says police on it, so that's not something that you could just like throw up quickly. But yeah, but it is a different design from the first episode.
Okay.
All right. So in the car now, Flass is playing with a lighter. He's tempting Firebug. They set him up, saying his gear's in the trunk, in the back in a broken trunk. They goof engine trouble so that they can willfully turn a blind eye so Firebug can escape with his gear. And then Flass makes it look like Firebug got the drop on them. Firebug goes to the east side. Goggles on, he imagines everything in flames, the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, it was eerie.
Yeah, this is there's a moment there. I actually like the activity that they put in the streets out there, where there's like people sitting on the stoop, and there's like there's like a mom like holding like a little baby like on the stoop, like outside. I'm like, oh, like it felt lived in. It felt like a real spot to me. I thought that was a nice bit. So Firebug enters a cellar. He finds flammable materials to fuel his tank, and then he starts to set the fire.
Right.
So Firebug is a character from the books. You see him pop up from time to time. He's been Batman the Animated Series. He's been in The Batman. But he's kind of an interesting bad guy in the sense that like he doesn't like every take of him is almost a little different. You know what I mean? You find that too, Frank? Like the gimmick is the same. Like sometimes he's called Firefly, sometimes he's called Firebug.
Right.
And the general, you know, the general hook is the same, that he's got a bug motif and that he sets fires. But his actual characterization, like this is a much more like meek and unassuming take on him. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those where he's supposed to be, you know, a little more. I don't know. I mean, sometimes it's he's portrayed as being, and again, I thought I was under the impression that the Firebug and Firefly were two different characters. I could be wrong.
Right.
But one of them is portrayed usually as being like, you know, consumed by the idea of fire and into that aspect of it. And one is just a serial arsonist that is for hire, is what I remember correctly. But yeah, this one definitely is, you know, just wants to see the world burn. You know, that like is in its eerie, that child choir along with the imagery of the, you know, everyone playing and the kids playing in the front and everything, and they're all made of fire was unsettling.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, so
I did like that scene. I like that
good.
scene.
Oh no, it's good. I mean, it's a well done scene. It just it's icky. So yeah, that was the only thing about it.
Yeah, it's just it really paints the psychosis of it more than I've often seen.
Right.
You see like the people interested in fire characters.
Right.
You see them sometimes, but yeah, where he's just like watching flame children in the streets gleefully.
Right.
He's definitely like, it was a much more neurotic character, like a character suffering neurosis. He's small, he's meek, he's out of shape. Like this isn't your super villain out there trying to, you know, rob banks or fight even. He just wants to burn things and then we'll get to it. And that's literally all he's after.
Yeah. It's definitely unsettling. He was a character that Bruce Timm wanted to use going back to Batman the Animated Series. And this was one of the clashes with the Fox Kids standards and practices where they were just like, absolutely not. Like a character, like a bad guy that uses fire as a bad guy. Like absolutely not. They figured it was way too imitable for kids to do something. So they did end up once they went to Kids WB for the new Batman adventures,
right,
where standards were a little bit more laxed. Right. They did get to do Firefly in that episode, and even in that, he was like, we still got some notes in there. So I do get a feeling that he didn't quite say everything he wanted to say with the character, do everything that he wanted to do with the character. And so it is kind of neat that he pops up here. This is the character that Brendan Fraser was supposed to play in the Batgirl movie that got canceled.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's one where I really feel like we kind of missed out. Like there's a little interview blurb where he's talking to Howard Stern about the character because they completely shot it.
Yeah.
Right.
And in that one, Firebug was supposed to be a a vet whose benefits got cut, and then essentially he has to turn to crime,
right,
and revenge, and it's just sort of like, that's a shame. So
yeah.
I'm going back to another part of the scene with the setup of Flass and Bullock trying to basically goad Firebug into doing this. Like, you do get a hint. I mean, it was funny, like you mentioned before, where they're just like, oh yeah, and we have his suit in the trunk. Is the lock still broken on the trunk? Anyone can open it. Oh, is that car trouble?
Right.
Like, it's also telegraph, which is the point. But like, in there, you do get a moment when Flass is telling Bullock to punch him to make it look like, there was a fight or something to get away. And Bullock's hesitates and seems to be, and it's the second time this episode, because he does it too right when Flass is about to let out Firebug, where he's like, are you sure? Like, he's like, are you sure about this? So we do get I think we're starting to see some cracks in that, where Bullock isn't quite as far gone as Flass, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Oh, speaking of Bullock, I did notice, and maybe it was just me, because it's who's doing Bullock this time around? It's
John DiMaggio.
The great John DiMaggio.
Yeah.
I noticed a little more Robert Costanzo in his performance this time. Maybe it was just me, but there were a couple lines I'm like, he's not quite doing the full bit, but there was a little bit of that in there. Maybe it was just me.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I'm just a fan of that particular take.
Was Robert Costanzo the voice for animated series?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's he's the gold standard for Harvey.
Yeah.
For me.
Oh my God.
For me. Like when I read Harvey Bullock's dialogue ever since then, I'm like, no, that's the voice I hear. So
yeah.
Again, you may hear differently, but that's what I noticed a couple times. I'm like, that's a different line delivery than he's done so far. So thought that was interesting. But yeah, they really do set him up quite well. And it almost feels like this isn't it. Again, the thing about it doesn't feel organic. It feels like they've done this before with other people,
right?
that weren't costume villains.
Yeah,
this is not the first time they pulled this kind of okey doke on people to like see like, oh yeah, I got loose and we need to go get him, or they stick another cop on him or whatever. But yeah.
So all right, so Gordon and Montoya are on Flass and Bullock's trail.
Mm-hmm.
Batman is tailing them. And Alfred gives him word that there's a fire.
Right.
Flass in the east side notes that there's an escaped convict and Batman on the loose. Gordon knows the area. He says it's going to be hell, and Flass is going to make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
Flass and Bullock, they'll take complete charge of the situation and just start barking orders to all the cops responding to the scene, and their orders are shoot Batman on sight.
Yeah. So
basically, the rest of the climax takes place in this burning apartment building. Batman goes in and has a fight with Firebug. Gordon arrives on the scene and then orders that no one else goes in. He won't have any good cops dying because of those two, meaning Flass and Bullock. He goes in, and then Montoya follows in after him. Batman, inside, evades and battles a couple of cops while helping tenants out. This feels very year one to me. Frank, we'll get to this. Gordon pursues Batman once he finds out that he's in the building, and then has Montoya basically get the rest of the cops and the people out. Firebug is admiring his handiwork nearby in an upstairs apartment next door, so he's in a separate building. He runs out of fuel, and Flass and Bullock catch up with him. Firebug gives up, but Flass and Bullock shoot him anyway, killing Firebug, who falls backwards out the window dramatically, and Eel O'Brien, gets the pictures. So, this is big for Bullock, right?
Yeah.
As we've said, like in part one, like this is behavior that is very, we come to know for Flass and his character in the comics. Yeah. This fits Flass to a T. This is a big departure for Bullock.
Yeah, for sure.
This is not a thing that Bullock from the comics, as we know him, would do. So they're really playing with the character a lot. What do you guys think? You still on the fence about it? Or,
I mean, I don't know how. I mean, again, it's so like it definitely is a moment of like there's a decision made and he just goes along with it.
Right. And the rationale is that Firebug would explain how they set him up basically to get free. So Flass and Bullock do it to cover their own tracks. That's the rationale behind it.
Yeah. How do we feel about Firebug being taken off the board?
Again, it was shocking. I was surprised. I thought, it was one of those things where he's not a big name villain, but again, the fact that, there was, he was shot to death and then fell out, blown out a window.
Yeah.
That was a heck of a death.
Yeah. I mean, the way he's presented in this as a villain, as again, like I said, it's psychosis, it's neuroses. Like, I don't know how much more you could do with him.
Right. True.
in the future, other than like, oh, he's burning something else down.
Sure.
Because it is in this. Like, he's out of juice. He's out of juice for his guns, for his flame gun thing suit. And he's basically tells Flass and Bullock, he's like, oh, well, like, I'm out. I guess you can take me back. And because that's all it is to him. Like, he had his fun and now his fun's over for the day. So he's ready to turn back in. And as a villain, I don't know like how much more of that there is to play with. So, I mean, I think it does serve a purpose very well for this episode to show like to be the creepy force of nature that they just kind of unleash on the poor people of the East Side and what they do to him to set up, like to move the pieces forward with Flass, with Bullock, and just to see what they're made of in this situation and stuff that we'll get to coming up.
Yeah.
I think he serves a purpose here. I don't know if I'm really would miss him for the future stuff.
I think it gives
being around, but
the show some grit, which is cool. I think this is a great scene. I think this is real. Like you said, the death is shocking. Like they don't pull any punches with it. It's really, really, it's smart. There's a motive behind it. It says that not all the bad guys are gonna make it out. I mean, this isn't like they didn't kill the Riddler here. This isn't a He's not a huge one, but but they got rid of one of them, and I'm a huge. I think all the villains have juice, for repeats and everything. So there is a little bit of me that's going like, oh, I would have liked to have seen something else with them, but I do like this scene a lot, and it's a gimmick where, like we said, where there's Firebug, there's Firefly, there's so many iterations. Somebody else can pick this up. Right, in the way that trying to think of a DC villain or a Marvel villain that's had like multiple like Shocker, right, or Mirror Master. There's been 3 Mirror Masters or whatever, right?
Yep.
So, all right. So in the burning building, Gordon catches up behind Batman and draws his gun. Batman turns around, revealing he's holding 2 kids. He's trying to get them to safety, and he tells Gordon there's also one more inside. Batman and Gordon start to work together now to get them all out. They jump through a laundry chute. Once Gordon has the kids, Batman disappears. Gordon gets the kids out, and O'Brien asks if he saw Batman. Gordon says he didn't. And then he sees Firebug's body being carried off. So, interesting that it took 4 episodes for us to get something that resembles the Batman-Gordon dynamic we've come to know and love after 85 years.
Right.
I was like, I'm quite surprised and pleased with the discipline to like keep them apart for 4 episodes, 3.5 episodes, basically. What'd you guys think?
I like the version of the turning away and then Batman's gone. I thought that was nice. The fact that they basically have to work together. It's also Gordon's knowledge of the neighborhood that's important too. Gordon knows how quickly the building can go up, knows how quickly what he's got to do to get people in and out. I thought that was, we often see Gordon take charge, but not quite as hands-on like that. I thought that was good. No, I thought the two of them, again, it was nice to have that dynamic between them that we haven't had, like you said, so far in the series.
Yeah.
But no, I thought all that stuff worked.
Yeah, Gordon refers to it as being like the East Side being his old beat.
Yeah,
and it was nice to see like that he knows how the buildings work. He knows where the laundry chute is.
Yep.
And maybe he wasn't in that building before, but like in cities, like especially New York City East Side, like a lot of the apartment buildings are cookie cutter. They were all built at the same time, same design. So I mean, I just got a sense that he'd been in enough of them that he knew where everything would be in any of them.
Right.
The fire is important here too. I dig the fire because it gives urgency to the scene here, where it makes Gordon have to trust him immediately. Right. For the sake of getting kids out and stuff like that before the building comes down all around them.
Right.
I like that in any other situation where the critique may be like, well, he trusts him too fast. Like, well, they're like that. This is why though.
Right.
Like,
yep. No, I like that. I like the fact Gordon lies about Batman at the end of the scene. That bit was nice. I also really liked Corrigan's reaction to seeing Batman was fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, holy crap. That was great.
He lies at the end, which I like also, but what I like is it's not to protect Batman. I like that it's protect himself, where he's like, well, if I saw him, like they would chew me out.
Right.
For like, why didn't I do something? Right. So I like that it's that even that too, that it's not immediately like it's not a service for Batman.
And it did make me think of the other thing about it. I mean, yeah, it was reminiscent of Year One, but it also reminded me of when in On Leather Wings in Batman the Animated Series when Bullock goes out with the task force and Gordon shows up.
Yeah.
And then all things are going to hell because I think it's like they accidentally put the gas pellets end up with a like paint or something or turpentine, something stored chemically. And it gets off that much worse, and Batman ends up not saving, but he throws the guy over in the water.
Right.
Well, the cops are in there too. It was, to me, it was reminiscent of that as well.
All right. Just a little bit left for this episode. We're in Gordon's office the next day. Gordon is wise to Flass and Bullock, telling them that he knows exactly what they did. They put people and cops in danger on purpose, and he's going to have their badges for this.
Yeah.
This is it for them. But Flass remarks, guess you didn't see the papers. East Side Inferno. Hero cops stamp out Firebug.
Right. Yep.
I gotta do the 40s newscaster voice for it.
Sure.
Right. The mayor calls Jim, says he wants Flass and Bullock in charge of the task force now and to stay out of their way.
Yeah.
Gordon did good too, so he's still safe for now.
Right.
But those are his marching orders now. Flass and Bullock are to lead this task force going after Batman. We then end on Montoya and Gordon in a bar, drinking after their failure, and then Barbara shows up to console, and then we fade out.
Yeah. I just think it's one of those things where, again, it's a manipulation of the time and the idea that there's a lot more trust in, I mean, again, people on the street watched basically what they thought was a good shooting, a righteous shoot, as it were, when really, the only reason why Firebug was in that situation is because they let him loose. So, I don't know if that's going to be a thing that's going to hang over their heads and eventually be dealt with, or just going to be, we're going to see the Flass and Bullock show for a while of them pulling more, dirty stuff. I don't know. But, I like the kind of, unlike what we would have gotten, say, Gordon and Harvey lamenting the police force being the way it is. We're kind of getting Gordon and Barbara and it's Barbara's in that scene too, right?
Yeah, she pops
in. Gordon and Barbara and Renee sort of, kind of basically being like this unit unto itself. I thought was a nice take, because normally it would be Harvey, but Harvey's such a smarmy jerk in this series so far. We don't really get that.
When you're saying Harvey, you mean Dent or Bullock?
Harvey Dent.
Okay.
Sorry, you're right. I should have.
Because Bullock would be there too.
He could be, yeah. Depending on when part of where, if he's on the sauce or not. But, in most other takes. But yeah, in this one it would have been like, in most times it's like him, the two of them, and maybe Batman. But I like that. I like the idea of the three of them trying to, like, basically saying we're trying to do the right thing and a good thing, and so far the good guys aren't winning.
Yeah.
So, no, it was a nice epilogue bit.
Yeah.
For overall in the show, being the second week, I feel like Gotham should be worse off in many ways. So like, if Batman's like just starting, it needs to be bad. It needs to be a bad place. And so far we haven't seen a lot of it. We get hints of it, like with who was it? Rupert Thorne is out there,
right?
Yeah.
But we haven't seen a whole lot. We know he's there, like especially after Penguin got busted. But this feels like this is starting to feel like the Gotham that is out of control, like where you have a good Gordon whose hands are completely tied and a corrupt police force that he can't control. And so I do like that it's getting more harrowing in that way.
Yeah.
Because I was like, if it's Batman's second week, this place should be terrible. Like this place, he wouldn't have had time to do anything yet. So there should still be a lot of bad stuff.
What I dig about this one, and I like this episode a lot. Yeah. I really, really like this one. First of all, I really like that epilogue at the end because I like how quiet it is. I like that it's fast. I like there's no dialogue really. It's not a big long moment. It's just sort of like it tells, what the image they end on sums it up right there. These three idealistic, heroic people trying to do the best they can, fail, and are drowning their sorrows. And this is where, again, I think the mature audience kind of thing fits. We can have a conversation about like what mature cartoons look like and the flavor that they kind of take. But what I like about this is that you can have them in a bar and that's okay. And you don't have to dance around this if this was a Saturday morning thing. And how do we get this kind of scene, but set it in a place that is okay for young kids to see. And I just like, this is where it's kind of refreshing to me that like, you can do this kind of stuff and it's not taboo.
Right.
The other thing I like, and Clifton, you said it too, we're like, this is the episode that kind of shows us where the police force is kind of out of control. And what is an interesting departure here is that typically start of Batman coincides usually with Gordon at some lower rank in the police force. Usually come in and Gordon's a captain, Gordon's a lieutenant of some kind, right? He's certainly a high up officer, but he's not the guy running the show. This is the first iteration I can think of where Batman is literally starting his career and Gordon is the commissioner, sort of the older man on the beat here. And the police force is out of his control, as opposed to it being like him just being like the one good cop surrounded by bad cops. This is him like running the department and it's still out of his control. And it's just kind of an interesting departure that makes Batman completely necessary for him.
Right.
Which is the way it should always be, even in the other takes as well. You guys agree? I mean, it says a lot about Gordon.
Right.
And I had a friend of mine that was, watching the show and actually like this tended to bother him a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was like, it bothers him that he was commissioner and it was like, and Gordon was this, what's the word? Like they're ineffective.
Right. Ineffectual.
Ineffectual. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it does. And the scope of it is also bigger here because you've got like obviously a corrupt mayor who only cares about political expediency for himself. But then the only alternative is a Harvey Dent who also only cares about political expediency for himself. So it does like stack everything against Gordon. And yeah, I mean, I hadn't really thought about the fact that he is already commissioner. But I think even then where you're like, we know Gordon's a good guy and he is in the position where he should be able to make the difference and he's not. So I hadn't thought about that myself yet until you were saying it, just now. But I think, yeah, now that he slowly had everything like wrested away from him, it does make the whole situation much more precarious for Gotham.
Right.
And even good man Gordon in the top position can't stop anything, can't stop it from happening. It's an interesting setup.
Yeah. Good episode, I thought.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's episode 4. So let's move on. So episode 5, The Stress of Her Regard. written by Holly Gross. I believe it's Holly Gross. Directed by Matt Peters. We open on a bank robbery. Batman breaks it up. Stops the criminals. It's King Tut. We roll the open. And Frank, go. King Tut.
I love King Tut.
I know.
I was like, no, that's great. What a great surprise. Good old King Tut. Yeah, Fletcher Deming, King Tut, gets a bump on the noggin and thinks he's King Tut and then wants to plunder Gotham. Straight out of Batman 66. Originally played by the great Victor Buono. He's so good. He's such a ridiculous Batman villain, but I love him. Every time he shows up, I'm happy to see him. So
yeah.
He was original to the show Batman 66?
I don't believe pretty sure that's his first appearance.
Prior to comics?
I think so,
yeah. I don't think they've retconned him in. There was like a Legend of the Dark Knight, I think, arc with him. And then he's shown up various times. I think the place he got the most play before this was he would pop up in the background of Brave and the Bold.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Or when there was a lot of like montage shots of villains getting out of Arkham, there would be all the usual suspects that we know, as well as all the Batman 66 villains, as well as a lot of the crazy like the Living Eraser and those kind of crazy ones from the 50s Batman stuff would show up as well. But yeah, I'm a King Tut mark. I think he's absolutely a character that could be a lot of stuff that's really cool to be done with him. I mean, he was Maxi Zeus really before Maxi Zeus.
Right.
Let's be honest. I mean, Maxi Zeus is pretty much the same kind of character. A guy thinks he's Zeus on Mount Olympus, and then and then starts pulling crime and pulling jobs and doing crime.
And was Zeus in the comics, or was Zeus original to Batman the Animated Series of 90s?
No, Zeus is from the comics and then was in Batman the Animated Series. Okay. So
I never knew, because I did put together that he was like that show's version of King Tut from 66. So I didn't know if they were just like that was the direct line where they're like, let's make our own King Tut, or if someone in the comics had done it already. Okay.
I want to say he's around the time of Len Wein and Gene Colan on the book, but I'd have to look. I want to see First Appearance Detective, but I'd have to look it up to see for sure. But yeah, same thing. I mean, same idea. But it was great to see him. When I saw him, I was like, yes. And then I was surprised that I mean, I was surprised at how he plays it in the story. We can talk more about the story in a minute.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we'll get it. So Batman 66 basically in the third season went with like all these original bad guys. So that's when you got, Bookworm. That's when you got the Archer. That's when you got
Marsha, Queen of Diamonds.
Egghead.
Yeah.
All these guys. And like King Tut, I think like by far of all of those is sort of like the one that people remember fondly.
Yeah.
Right.
I sure do.
Brave and the Bold, I remember. Yeah, Brave and the Bold would like pull him out, and he would be in the background and stuff. I've never quite gotten the story on this, because he is in a teaser also in Brave and the Bold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is.
Where he's not just the background, and they call him Pharaoh in that one. And I don't know if there's like a rights issue.
Right, it might be
right where they had to like kind of like change the name of it, because he's never called King Tut here, but right. Clearly, that's what he is. But
they may have since then changed. That may have been it probably couldn't trademark King Tut,
right?
For the comics, they probably call him something else. But I mean, I don't know. Again, it's like you said, it's probably a rights issue. But nevertheless, happy to see it.
So so that's literally like the first 20 seconds of the show, the episode.
King Tut.
Yeah.
So we're in the Batcave when we come up from the open. King Tut. Fletcher Deming. Bruce has met him a few weeks ago before, but now he's in Arkham after donating his entire fortune.
Right.
Alfred says Deming struck him as a much more of a selfish person, and Batman says he was. Something has to be up.
Right.
We cut to some kind of dungeon, a holding compound. There's a man dressed as a mime.
Yeah.
Being tortured until he agrees to give up everything he owns.
Sure.
And we see the Jester, who is calling the shots in creepy whisper tones. She doesn't believe him, and then the torture continues.
Yes.
So next morning, we're in the diner. Barbara is discussing with Dr. Quinzel just a feeling of like general like hopelessness about their jobs and the impact that it's having. Harley says she should hear what some of her patients tell her. It used to get her down, but you need to be able to laugh about it. She says this trying to cheer her up, reassure Barbara. Montoya enters the diner, joins them. She says she saw them when they were walking by. She tells Barbara that she hasn't returned any of her phone calls and that she's been calling because she's worried about her dad. Barbara agrees. She says she's also worried, but her dad is the strongest person she knows, and he'll be okay. We cut to them outside at sort of the end of their lunch. As they exit, Harley asks out Montoya, and she accepts. So this is what you were talking about, Frank. They were kind of teasing this in the previous episode, and here they're outright, they're jumping into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the line about laughing it off caught me right away. I thought, oh, okay, now you're doing a little bit of your, teasing what we're going to get.
Right.
I did have a moment where I thought of our friend Devon, where it's mentioned that where Harley says the thing about Renee being a lady cop.
Mm-hmm.
Our friend Devon, there's a DC First special, if I remember correctly, from the 70s with a character called Lady Cop. So I can't prove that that's a shout out, but our friend Devon has a fondness for that particular character, and when she pops up in things, so I thought, this is a shout out for Devon.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I like I said, I picked up a previous episode that there was something between Harley and Renee, and this just confirmed it. The idea that she's saying, want to meet you for dinner, which was fine. That was cool. I did think it was interesting. We're getting, some kind of weird. I didn't know if it was indeed a tickle torture or some kind of tickle fetish that was taken to the point of torture.
Mm-hmm.
But again, being a more mature show, it was one of those. I'm like, okay, I guess you could do this on that kind of show.
Yeah. Torturing a mime with a feather.
All right. So Dr. Quinzel is in her office. She's doing a session. She seemingly says that she can't quite get through to him and they need to take his treatment up a notch. So she hits a button and she traps him in his chair.
Mm-hmm.
Then we cut to Batman investigating Fletcher Deming. He finds a secret study decked out like an Egyptian temple. Very cool background. He finds a checkbook and sees that many, many, many payments for Dr. Quinzel.
Mm-hmm.
This is a cool bit too. I dig this scene for I'll stop right here for 1 second because Frank, you had mentioned in the previous episode, in our previous episode, part 1, where Bruce is going to the therapy sessions with Harley, and how this is the 40s, there would have been like some stigma about this.
Right, for sure.
And I dig that he may have many, 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 many reasons to be hiding this sort of checkbook for it, but I like the idea that the check that he's writing his therapy sessions is also like stashed into a secret room. And this kind of plays into, without saying it, it kind of plays into this assumption that we're having that like maybe it's just like we want to hide the fact that we're getting treatment.
Right,
from the public.
Right. Yeah, because it wouldn't take much for people to put together the idea that that doctor is not a doctor, not a medical, you're not going to the doctor for backache or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was a cool thing. I wanted to point it out. So okay, so Batman's still in that Egyptian secret study room of Fletcher Deming's. Batman's ambushed by the task force, led by Flass and Bullock. Here they are again. They throw in a smoke grenade. Bullock goes in to apprehend. And Batman just throws the grenade back.
Yeah, I love that.
It goes off. Smoke fills the room. Batman sneaks out and quietly starts taking out all the uniform officers, leaving just Flass. Bullock comes out saying, Batman isn't here. And then the smoke clears and we see all the cops are down except for Flass and Bullock. This is a pretty cool moment.
It was good.
Yeah. We said in the first part too, like anytime Batman like quietly moving like a horror movie is pretty great stuff. But this one I like the throwing the smoke grenade back. It's a funny gag, but it's also it's so Batman like taking control of the environment, which is neat. And for me and Clifton, we were like offlining a little bit about this. I was trying to find like what the term is. Like Bullock and Flass here remind me so much of like Guildenstern and Rosencrantz from Hamlet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They're just like, they wax and wane so much between like highly, highly competent and inept.
Right.
And kind of clownish. And I kind of dig that and it's not a characterization like failure or anything. Like it's just, they are both.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I really dig that.
Yeah, no, I think it works.
Yeah, they're not quite the full characters, but they can play that part sometimes.
Yeah.
Because they are obviously effective. They take over the Fat Task Force. They are dangerous and effective, but sometimes it doesn't all work out for them.
Right. So the man from the session earlier with Dr. Quinzel wakes up in that bunker. He's dressed as a king. Other prisoners are there. One is dressed as a baby. One is dressed as an elf. There's a schoolboy. And they're all enduring some kind of personalized brand of torture. The jester arrives. She lets the one dressed as the baby out and gives him a sledgehammer and says he can have all the pudding he wants if he gets the king to give up all of his worldly possessions. So this is the first, look at the Harley design.
Right.
Bit of a departure. The red and black is gone. We went with a different color palette. Still a jester, though. What do you guys think of the look?
I like the look.
Okay.
I thought it's a cool design. I think it's a little more playing card than
right. That's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, it's like a playing card Joker, kind of like an alternate take on a playing card Joker.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, was it yellow and black instead of red and black?
Mm-hmm. I also felt like there was with the playpen itself, with the way it's set up, and with her rolling in, it definitely had a lot more. Again, with also the tickle fetish, it had a lot more of a dominatrix angle to it than I don't know if it was intended or not.
Yeah.
Well, she did refer to Batman possibly having fetishes in the previous episode.
True,
so.
That's true. So again, it's that without coming out full on and being like, this is what she may have been prescribing. I don't know.
Yeah,
right.
But it definitely is there.
There's a lot happening with it. Yeah, there's fetish stuff. There's obviously torture. There's I like that the costumes are all some comment on their psychological state and how they treat people.
Right.
And like what she's, I don't want to say pushing back against in some way, but a little bit.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's their vices or something.
Yeah.
It's their
right.
They're not good traits.
Right. Exactly.
In her opinion.
Exactly.
But we managed to get like a version of Harley's mallet in there.
Right.
Yeah.
With that, we also get a version of Puddin' in there. Which again is clever. It's fine. I mean, I would have been fine if we didn't have any of that stuff too, but that's okay.
It is a really weird scene though. Like this is where I'm like, this episode is getting weird.
Right. Right. For sure. Yeah.
And like our first one was a King Tut. So when I was watching this, I was like, are any of these references to other villains?
Right. No,
is there like a man baby that Batman?
What's the one from Brave and the Bold?
There was a man baby that yeah. But he was he had like a baby face. He had like a baby head with he was like a full hulking body in a suit.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Which, as far as I know, never appears anywhere else. It's straight from Brave and the Bold.
Right.
Yeah. Just the fact that we had like King Tut as one of her victims.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, are any of these others like supposed to be villains?
Yeah, is there an elf of some sort that we don't know?
Right.
Maybe?
Yeah. The elf character. Yeah. So that's what I was wondering watching it. It was a weird episode, though. Yeah. I was like, where is this going?
Yeah.
Babyface is his name.
It is Babyface. Okay. So that's what I thought. I wasn't sure.
Anyway, so Barbara meets Fletcher Deming at Arkham.
Mm-hmm.
He says he knows Harley, which surprises her.
Mm-hmm.
He then tries to make a getaway. Barbara pursues him to the roof where she stops him from jumping.
Right.
2 orderlies come out and give him a shot to calm him down before he can say more. He tries to say the name Harley, but he passes out, and all we hear is ha, ha.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Again,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a clever bit.
It's a good bit. The motifs are there. The clown stuff that we associate, it's there in some way, but not overt, which is cool. Barbara then circles over to Harley at her office and asks about Fletcher. Harley acts as if she doesn't have any knowledge with him.
Right.
But she comments that she asked Montoya out and wants to know what kind of food she likes so she can impress her. So they're playing up the friend aspect, which I dig that.
Mm.
Barbara meets her dad, and then asks, what do you do when evidence points somewhere you don't want to look? And he says, once the truth is known, now they know how to help.
Mm-hmm.
So Barbara goes to Harley's office, sneaks in. Harley's not there, but the office has been ransacked.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara sees out the window that the window is open and Batman is jumping to the next building. She starts looking. She sees Fletcher Deming in Harley's schedule, and she says, she lied to my face. She clearly knows him. She finds some pages ripped out, which were taken by Batman, out of her schedule, and using a pencil, she shades the following pages to see what was written by the impression left, and we see the name William Hastings. Barbara drives out to a big cliffside house in the city outskirts. A man enters the door. Barbara's trying to get information. She says she represents Demings, and he and Hastings were both patients of Harley. Hastings gets defensive, saying that he thought the patient list was confidential.
Right.
She says that Deming is suffering and is pleading with him to try and get some information. She says she checked with Hastings' office and no one has seen him for months. That's when he reveals that she's actually speaking to William Hastings. And he says this is an invasion of privacy and asks her to leave the property. She drives off and stops a bit down the road, hidden out of sight. She goes around to the back of the house, and she's about to climb some shrubs to peer into a window when Batman surprises her, asking, what is she doing? They stand off for a beat. He asks again, more bluntly, like, why is she trying to break into William Hastings' house? She asks, why is he? He says he thinks Dr. Quinzel is brainwashing some of her patients. She asks if he has any proof. He says not yet. She says Harley's a friend, but if she's hurting people, she needs to know. Batman tells her to go back to the city and he'll handle Harley. Batman swings off, and Barbara says, that isn't fair. So, cool moment here. First of all, I liked how it feels like Gotham is not as sprawling.
Yeah.
A city as we've seen in other versions, which is cool. Like, I like that there's a very, very, I mean, typically we see Wayne Manor in sort of the outskirts, but I like that we're seeing like other houses, which I'm assuming is out there.
Right.
Which is kind of a neat little like world building. This is where Gotham is feeling like a place to me again, which is cool. But I like that Barbara finds something that Batman missed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, to me it was foreshadowing of like, are we going to get Batgirl?
Mm-hmm.
I wondered, I mean, if they're setting it up to certainly, give us the impression that Barbara was doing this sort of stuff long before, there's any kind of Batman.
Right.
And she definitely gets physical. Like, we see her save the person on the roof before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she chases and she catches and saves the day there. And she's ready to jump over fences and break into places too.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And she is dressed in purple this time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the suit's purple for this one.
I did like when she complains that it's not fair. Because I was thinking, like, it's her thinking kind of like a lawyer to be like he gets to do this and I can't because it's not admissible if I do it. But like, he just gets to go off and do this and break in somewhere and solve a crime.
It is also kind of interesting that, like, I didn't time it. I don't know how many minutes in we are, but it's like, it was a long time not seeing Batman.
Yeah. I'd read that about the episode before I'd seen it. The people were saying, kind of complaining, whose show is this? But I'm like, you can tell it's an ensemble piece. There's a ton of characters in it. So,
yeah, I had my notes on this one where I was like, and honestly, the previous one too. Yeah. I was like, in these two episodes, there's not been a whole lot of Batman in either of these two episodes. And I'm fine with that, honestly.
I'm fine with it too.
Right.
That wasn't a complaint on my part, just an observation where I was like, yeah, it's nice to have like characters with enough meat that I'm still entertained.
Yeah.
Without Batman, he just kind of shows up. He's just kind of like you were saying in the previous episode. He's kind of a force that's out there and shows up.
I like the way that makes me feel. And I didn't realize that sentiment was out there where people were like belly aching about it.
Yeah, they were.
That's silly.
But people are silly, so.
But all right, so we cut to a restaurant, a fancy one. Harley and Montoya's date. It's going well. They're flirting. They're talking about a second date, and this is when Dr. Quinzel gets a call. The server brings the phone to the table, so she takes it right there at the table, and She tells Montoya that it's an emergency with a patient. She has to leave. Montoya's disappointed, but Harley says to meet her at Hopper's, and they'll pick up right where they left off. And she kisses her. So it's clear that, like, you know, this isn't the, hey, call with an emergency so I can duck out, you know, move that, like, you know, she genuinely likes Montoya, and I like this relationship. It's cool. It's not one from the books, but it fits.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I like the idea of it, you know, being out there and the idea that they're doing that. Again, the time, I don't know how, I mean, I'm sure I'm not that so stupid to be like, well, this has never happened before. I'm like, certainly it happened before in the 1940s. It's just one of the things where I don't know how socially acceptable it would have been.
Sure.
Right.
But that was my only thing about it. Otherwise, I'm perfectly happy with it. I think it was a cool idea. I feel bad for Renee, not knowing what's really going on.
What mess she's getting into.
Right. Yeah, that made me feel sad. But other than that, I was okay with the idea of them as a couple. I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah, as far as them as a couple, this is a thing I do remember when the show was announced, or when early stuff for the show started coming out, and they described the 1940s setting. They did caveat it by saying, like, but it'll look like today's world.
Right.
Like, we will be giving representation to people who would not have had representation in the 40s.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I take it as that. They're using the settings of the 40s where they want. Sometimes they're using the trappings of the 40s, the look, the style, all of that. But then also trying to tell more representative stories for modern audience in that trapping, in that facade. So I think that's like kind of how I balance it all in viewing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree with both you guys more. I had the same thought too. I was like, I don't know how out in the open they would be,
right,
if it was the 40s, but at the same time, it's refreshing to not have a, we're hiding storyline.
True.
With this too, right? And it does what it does do, because you see like background characters too, where like you see like judges that are black and stuff like that from time to time, and it does give the sense that Gotham is like a lot more of a like progressive city, like up north.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool.
A lot more than any northern cities were at that point in time too.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
But I liked it. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, like, I like how much this show tells us without being over, like, beating us over the head with things. I like just how much they tell us things like very, very off to the side, in an understated ways. So, but yeah, no, I agree. I feel bad for Montoya too.
Right.
It's unfortunate, but okay. So Batman sneaks into Hastings' place. This is where we see that really, really cool like walk of him that they use in the opening.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really dig this shot where like he feels like kind of like a ghost, like he's walking like a zombie, like it's all like slow and kind of weird and spooky. Right. I dig that one. Anyway, I just wanted to point it out. So he finds the holding cells, the playpen, and the patient prisoners that are locked up. We see that Barbara's also sneaking around inside the house. Harley arrives, asks Hastings where he is, meaning Batman, and Hastings tells her the playpen. Barbara overhears. Harley suits up and confronts Batman. She says, "I knew you'd come for me." She lets all the patients out and says, "Whoever gets Batman will make her very, very happy, and whoever doesn't is dead."
Mm-hmm.
They all grab like the melee weapons out there, and they all try and take out Batman. And so we get like a pretty cool fight sequence of Batman moving constantly and not necessarily trying to hurt them, but he's punching them in the face pretty hard.
Right.
So he trips during the scuffle with the mime, and they tumble into one of the cells. Batman kicks the mime out, but Harley's able to seal Batman in and then gasses him.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to kill him, but she needs a head start. So she sets a countdown. He has 5 minutes to figure a way out before the house blows.
Right.
She exits with the patients, remarking, maybe next time they can unpack some of that childhood trauma, hinting at the possibility that she knows his identity. but
she
never
knows.
Confirms it.
She knows.
Right?
I think
that was my question too. I put it in my notes.
I would too. I think my immediate, when I saw that part, I was like, in my notes, I'm like, she knows. That's exactly what I have as she traps him. I'm like, no, she definitely knows who he is. I just think it's more, at this point, it's just, no, it's more, I mean, it's more fun to play. And she shows it, I think, a little bit when he has to have the mandated sessions with her. The fact that, when she leaves him the note in the folder about the fact she knows he snooped and looked at it.
Yeah.
I think they're going to play her that way as being a little more clever.
Yeah. I think there was a bit, though, too, where she was trying to see if Bruce was one of these people.
True.
Right? To also, like that Bruce was going to be one of these victims in one of those cells.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I also look at it that way a little bit, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, Harley and all the patients and Hastings, they all exit unknowingly right past Barbara. Barbara goes into the playpen and sees Batman passed out in the cell. She grabs one of the weapons. She grabs a baseball bat and she tries to smash him out. Hastings is driving Harley away. She removes her makeup. So, this is where we see it is, in fact, Dr. Quinzel, right? Because up until this point, we've seen, we've not really seen the change on screen.
Right.
As they're driving away, she sees Barbara's car on the way out. She tells him to turn around. Back inside, Barbara's still trying to break the glass to let Batman out. Harley sneaks up and grabs Barbara, telling her that she'll answer all of her questions later, but they have to get out before the house blows. Barbara says they aren't leaving without Batman. Harley goes to open the door for the control panel, but Barbara's damaged it, trying to smash it open, so the door won't open. Here I like again, this is kind of like the fire with Gordon, where like, the countdown puts some urgency into the sequence that Harley and Barbara can't have their talk right now.
Right.
Which I like. I think that this is, we've seen a million countdown sequences in shows, but I like that this one is doing something aside from just having an exciting, like, third act action sequence. Right.
Right.
I liked when the fact that Harley sees Barbara's car, and immediately puts together like, oh, she's back at the house too, probably knowing that she had tried to get in before from Hastings, but that she immediately turns the car around. Because up to this point in the show, like when we started to figure out how shifty she is and everything that's going on, like, I mean, I did wonder, like, is there ulterior motives? Like, is all of this, like the friendship with Barbara, the courting of Renee, is it all a play for something? Because obviously she's got a lot of issues and a lot of agenda. So seeing that it was genuine friendship,
right,
I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, like this is a character. Everything we've seen between these three women is real. The friendship, the love, and it wasn't a play. And I like that gives that depth to Harley. Like, she's vulnerable.
Right.
As well as being whatever else she is. Like, there is a vulnerable heart in there.
Right.
That wants friends, that wants love.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really cool take.
It's a loss for her, not just for Barbara, too. Yeah, I agree. It's a nice bit. So, the place all around them is starting to blow up. One of the explosions causes enough damage to the whole cell that Batman is in that it's blown clean off the foundation. Harley pulls Barbara as they begin to run out. The place is crumbling all around them. The floor gives way underneath, and Barbara and Harley fall, and they're dangling. Barbara's holding Harley up by the hand, and Barbara's hanging onto like a wooden plank. Harley just says to let her go. She says she's not going to prison or to Arkham. The beam breaks. They both fall. Batman swings in for the save, but can only save Barbara. So Harley falls and hits the water. Barbara runs to check to see if Harley's alive. The body is gone, of course. And Batman says her friendship with Harley made her reckless. Barbara says to shut up. This is
read the room, Batman.
Yeah,
read the room.
Right, exactly.
This is where I like that there's some awkwardness with Batman here.
Yeah.
I like that he can't read it. And he's just sort of like, he just goes immediately to business. And
well, it's even better. The next line is, I have to go.
Yeah.
That's the best part of that. I mean, I agree with you. That part's great that he doesn't really know, like, even through what he's been through, he doesn't know enough to be like, hey, that really sucks. I know she was your friend, but, he just wants to lecture and she tells him to shut up. And then he doesn't know what to do. He's like, I have to go.
Yeah.
He doesn't pull the typical just disappear.
No, he doesn't. I really dig it. I think, she's crying. Mm-hmm. The police sirens are heard in the distance, and Batman says he has to go, but he's sorry, and it's awkward. It's him trying some, it's an awkward moment of compassion that he's aware he needs to say something at this point, but he's not sure what to do.
Right.
And yeah, I really love it.
Mm-hmm. No, it's good.
Yeah. All right. So, we cut to Hopper's Jazz Club, where Montoya is waiting outside alone.
Mm-hmm.
Harley never shows. The phone booth nearby down the street rings. Montoya answers. It's Harley. She says she's sorry she couldn't make it. She has to leave town for a while, but she'll look her up when she gets back. Then she comments to look out for Barbara for her. She hangs up, and we fade out. And another one here where, like you said, Clifton, we're like, this isn't Harley being like manipulative as far as the relationship goes. Like, it was genuine. She liked Renee, and
like she was genuinely excited about the date when she was telling Barbara about it earlier. Like, she was really psyched for it.
Yeah,
it's interesting. My question was this after all of that and Harley's fine? Or was this before, like in the car or something she called? I don't know if they have car phones. I don't know what they have. Well, they do have car phones, right? I don't know.
Maybe.
The Batmobile did, and somebody uses a car phone at some point.
Maybe they don't. But I didn't know if we were seeing things in order or out of order. Or if Harley lives or
I took it as we saw it in order just because.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind.
It doesn't tell us like earlier this evening.
Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't mind the trope of, hey, we're going to pretend we're going to kill the character off. That's fine. But at the same time, you're not killing off Harley Quinn.
No.
And then, I think what even makes it work better is the idea that we saw a villain the prior episode get shot to death. So that they maybe she is, and I'm like, no, they gave us the epilogue bit to let us know that she's fine. She's gonna skip town for a while so she doesn't get caught.
Yeah,
I dig that. I dig that they basically tell us and she's okay.
Yeah,
right.
Instead of doing like you were saying, Frank, that like did she make it out? Is she okay, or did the body just like drift off someplace and then have to make it so I mean, I guess we will still see Batman surprise when she returns if she does.
Mm-hmm. And Barbara. Yeah. Well, unless Renee tells Barbara that she called.
And I wonder if that's going to be a thing. Will Barbara tell? That was my question. Was Barbara going to tell?
Oh, Renee, like what the whole deal was.
Yeah. I mean, I guess someone's going to, right?
Right. Yeah, it's got to come out somewhere.
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
Oh, just a little aside. So they're at a place called Hopper's. I didn't notice, Zach. Was that supposed to look like the Nighthawks Diner by Edward Hopper?
I think so.
I know you love Hopper.
I do love Hopper.
Edward Hopper.
Yeah.
I was like, Zach would know.
Hopper is also, so Nighthawks is referenced in the Year One movie.
Okay.
Like one of the restaurants. I think Gordon's at a bar at a cafe with Essen, and it's made to look like the Nighthawks, which I think is actually a panel in the book too.
Okay.
Just called Hoppers over there, which is cool. Yeah, no, I love Edward Hopper. He's great. This is a dark Harley.
Right.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I had some general thoughts on it where I was like, is this like a what if Harley formed without the Joker?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we just not know of any possible involvement of a Joker? Because we haven't seen any possible Joker yet. So that's one of my questions, and I don't know the answer to it. So I don't know if we'll know. I don't know when we'll find the answer to that. Like, is this a Harley that forms without that influence, without being victimized there? And what does that make her? Other question or observation was just that in our previous episode, when we were talking about earlier episodes where we see Montoya and Harley introduced, Harleen Quinzel introduced, and I had commented that those two, like as far as different as everyone else is, Bullock, Dent, Alfred, Batman, even in many regards to previous iterations we've seen, that Montoya and Harley felt the most the same from Batman the Animated Series. We don't see this part of Harley's life that much, except in some flashbacks in the animated series.
Right.
But it feels like what we know of her, that she was a competent psychiatrist in Arkham until she gets warped and twisted by the manipulations of the Joker.
Yeah.
But this is a very different Harley now than we've seen in that show. This is, and I don't know quite how to describe it, but it's definitely darker that she's doing this all on her own.
Yeah.
Without somebody guiding her, without a darker force manipulating her into it. So I think that's interesting. It is a big challenge, I think, because Harley is literally, I don't know if she's the most successful aspect of Batman Animated Series, but for many people, I think they would say that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people would say that that's what speaks to them the most out of that show is the creation of Harley Quinn. She's definitely one of the most successful original characters that came from the show and is now one of the most successful DC has in general characters.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of guts, I think, to go back to that and be like, let's do another swipe at that.
It does.
And now I'm fascinated to see where it goes.
Yeah, because I think in the animated series, she's obviously, that's her background when we get it in Mad Love, when we get her origin story, is that she was she was in Arkham and she talks to the Joker and then becomes Harley Quinn. I can't remember if it's only in the comic book, but not in the animated. There's a scene where she gets a bad, I think it's just in the comic. She gets a bad grade and she basically, it's not, there's no dialogue. It's all told through the art, but she gets a bad grade and she's got like an F on a paper. You can see it. She walks back in the professor's office and closes the door. And then the door opens and the professor has like kisses all over him and lipstick. And she's walked out with an A.
Yeah. And it's like his suit jacket's disheveled and
right.
Yeah.
So we don't, I mean, it's portrayed and it's not in the episode, it's in the comic that happened, and that there's some indication that maybe she wasn't the most orthodox psychiatrist, and she didn't maybe she didn't get her grade didn't actually do well. And then when you get to the actual series, her series that's on like HBO or just Max now, there's definitely a push to be like, no, she was actually quite competent at her job.
Okay.
Wouldn't you say, Zach?
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely try to put out that more idea of like, no, she was a legit psychiatrist. She was actually good at it. And then
which I do always like that take, because then it also just builds up Joker more of like she was great and he was even still able to break it down.
Right. So
I had the same thought, Clifton, where like it when you remove Joker from the equation, it makes me really, really curious now. Like, well, what's the origin and how did this all happen? Yeah, and I think that's like really interesting ground to cover with her. I think I'm just grasping at straws here too. I haven't read this in an interview. I'm just this is my own theory as a viewer and like fanatic of Batman the Animated Series and all those kind of things. Harley created by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. My feeling is that Tim is of the two, Tim is a little bit not as precious about Harley as Dini is. Right? Would you agree, Frank?
Yeah, I think it's a fair take. Yeah.
Yeah, I think back to, so I'm gonna spoil Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, really, really quick for an anecdote. Where in the flashback sequence Harley dies in that, and if you listen to the commentary, they make reference to the fact that like Paul Dini was essentially like inconsolable having to write that sequence, right, of actually like killing off Harley, and then if you watch the rest of the movie, like he inserts her returning in the future later on as the grandmother of Dee Dee. Right, one of the Joker gangs in there, which they were like that wasn't in the outline. It was just like he just threw it in there because he didn't want Harley to die. Right. I think Tim is a little less precious about it. And I look at Tim now because I'm comparing this also with when Gods and Monsters came out, right? And they did those 3 shorts that were through, I think, Machinima. There's a Batman short, a Superman short, and a Wonder Woman short from the Gods and Monsters. This is like basically Bruce Timm like recreating the DC universe.
Yep.
So in that short, Batman fights Harley, and Harley is a outright killer in this piece too. And so I think that he's not afraid to keep her as the bad guy, which is an interesting take. And I like it, quite frankly, because I will confess that I find Harley as the hero kind of tough to swallow.
Me too.
When especially when she's tied to the Joker, which is another reason why I think it's very smart to remove her from the Joker in this. Because it does make that complexity a little interesting. But when you have her as the Joker, as the Joker's Maul, she's an accessory to murder at the very best.
Yep.
Right. And at the worst, she's a murderer herself.
Right.
And so, and I get that she's a popular character and everything, and we bend the rules for that. But from a story perspective, the jump to hero for Harley never truly made sense.
Right.
That was a big rant, but that was where I was. It was so I think Tim, in summary, just feels a little bit more open to playing with the take a little bit. Yeah. We didn't get into Arkham really quick. What do you guys think of the fact that Arkham is not a ghastly, ghoulish place?
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet. Yeah, not quite yet.
Yeah. Do you guys dig that take? Or
well, it's fine because we don't have.
It's more sanitized, right?
Yeah.
Like a hospital. Yeah, it's not like the old mansion.
At this point, it probably is just a sanitarium / hospital.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really, they don't. I mean, as far as we know, no one's gone there yet, right?
Well, King Tut,
but
he's their first. He's their first special, their
again,
first weirdo resident.
As Zach and I have talked about many times, especially with the Batman 66 villains, a lot of that stuff looks, a lot of those characters, there's kind of the idea of people just trying stuff. Yeah, they have psychotic breaks,
right.
But in some cases, it's also just like, oh, this guy decides to dress up, like he's Bookworm. Like Bookworm's is going to commit book crimes. But I don't know if they're going to end up in Arkham.
Right.
I don't know what the actual criteria is, and I don't think they know yet either. Just because, again, he's only been Batman now for what?
Yeah, like 3 weeks at this point.
3 weeks. So we
haven't been longer. I mean, there's a bigger passage of time in that Catwoman episode than any of the other ones. Where all these episodes tend to have. Or either like unfolding in a single night or like 1 or 2 days. But that Catwoman episode traversed a big gap of time, I think.
Right.
Because she's out there's a sense that she's out for weeks doing this.
Right.
But
again, it's not like, I guess my thing is no one's poisoned a reservoir yet.
Right. Yeah.
Right? No one's done that yet.
No, not yet.
There's no Smilex in the air
right.
yet. So until we get to that point, I don't think, I don't know what they're going to, when that happens, I don't know what they're going to do, because I think, along with the whole thing of talking about the Batman 66 villains, the idea of the transition from Gotham being sort of a family or a mafia run town to the costume villain's first appearance, I think is a big transition for Gotham.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of missteps of, you get your Firebugs and your King Tuts out of the way. And then, oh, by the way, there's a guy that wants to change all of the fish to Joker fish. And then the Gotham is never the same after one of those things happens.
Right.
And as far as I know, that hasn't happened in the series yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
So, all right. So that's where we're going to leave it. We're going to do 4 and 5 in this one. And we will continue on with the rest of the season. But really quick, I wanted to end with you guys because it's something that kind of comes up in episode to episode here and there. I went to Noir Fest this year down over here in the DC Noir Fest that's done by the Film Noir Foundation. They call it Noir City. And so finally, guys, after years, I met Eddie Muller.
Oh, wow.
Right? The guy.
If you go back to an early episode of our show.
Yes.
It's like episode 3 or something. Wow. I can't remember for sure. Zach talks about almost getting to meet Eddie Muller, but not quite. Is that what happened like years ago?
I've been going to this Noir Fest like year after year, and it just always shakes out where like my schedule never like matches up with him. Where it's like I'm going on days where he's not there, like because he'll show up and he'll lead some lectures before movies and stuff like that. Which is like an all day thing. That's what I realized. Like he does it all day. So he's in that theater for like 12 hours watching noir movies and then stands up before each one and gives. So it's a long day for him. But yeah, so every time that I'm able to go is a day where he's not there. So, but this finally happened. So this was awesome for me. He got to sign my book finally because he did a book called Dark City, which is full of just fantastic photographs of film noir movies, just all the depraved film noir heroes with fear and pathos in their eyes. Just awesome. So this is a book that I have checked this book out repeatedly at the library over the years, like since like going back to I was like 16. I'll check this out all the time, and I ended up buying a used copy from the library that they'll put stuff out on the shelves every once in a while and sell stuff for like 50 cents or $1. So that's how I got my first copy. But for my birthday last year, they did a reprinting of the book that's like really, really nice. It's hardcover. It's got like, a slip cover and everything like that. And my brother got me that for my birthday this last year.
Oh, nice.
So that's the one that he signed, which was really cool. Okay. So when I got to meet him, I got to say, this was like a gift from my brother. I checked this out a bunch of times, and he's actually like, he's with me here, like in the theater. And he was like, oh, that's nice. That's, that's really great. So, he wrote a nice little note in the book and everything. So, he's a nice guy, super, super nice guy. He was dressed in a suit, like a noir looking suit, like a 40 suit.
Nice.
Yeah. And this is the guy, he does all the intros for Turner Classic.
Right.
Turner Classic
like obviously
movies.
He's a film historian, but he also presents for Turner Classic Movies.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So
and Noir was Noir City here. Noir City is what they call it here. And it's a traveling film festival. Is that right? Or do they go to different cities?
Yeah. So they'll do like LA, they'll do Chicago, they'll do, so the one that we get, it's in Silver Spring, Maryland, but that's actually the DC one. The DC one is there, and they do the AFI over there. That's kind of like an old, old theater.
The old renovated theater that became the AFI Silver just outside of DC here.
Yeah. So it was great. So so I saw, I this is going to be a long episode, I know, but so I saw Odd Man Out. They did a bunch of double features. So I went to 2 double features. So the first one was Odd Man Out. It's a Carol Reed movie who did The Third Man. So Odd Man Out this predates The Third Man. This is from 1947. It was a British film noir, and this is what they did with the double features. Were like they would package like an English language one with a noir from another country. So Odd Man Out played with a Mexican one called Victims of Sin. That was a wild one. Whew. That was a crazy movie. They got stuff into that movie that would never have flown in the States because of the
Hays Code.
Yeah, the code, which is a big thing of noir. We got to do a noir episode sometime. But then I did. So the second one that I did was Elevator to the Gallows, which is a French one, and that was paired with a little known one called Strong Room. And Eddie Muller didn't do the lecture for this one. Somebody else from the Film Noir did the Film Noir Foundation did the lecture of this one, and he was like, I thought this was a typo when I saw that this was a movie I had to explain. He's like, I'd never heard of this. It's a true B movie. Like you didn't know any of the actors in here. He's like, I had to look up the director. I didn't know who any of the, right. This is like tiny film. Visually very unremarkable. Like it looks almost like an episode of Andy Griffith. You know what I mean? Like, it's just sort of like everything's kind of a wide shot. It's just like, it doesn't have any of that noir contrast that you come to expect when you watch, you know, Double Indemnity or The Third Man and stuff. But man, Strong Room was fun. This is like one of my favorite ones. And so, the hook of this one is basically it's three crooks are pulling a bank job. It goes awry, and they end up putting two of the bank workers in the vault to get away, and then they leave, and then they come to realize that it's Easter this weekend, so the bank is going to be closed on Monday, and so they're not going to have enough air to make it to Tuesday, so they have to figure out like how to get back in and like let them out, because it's the difference between like a bank job versus a murder charge,
right?
You know, and this was such a awesome surprise. So yeah, Strong Room is really, really great. So just wanted to throw that because these are the kind of movies that the guys making Batman Cape Crusader are all like looking at.
Yeah.
At the moment. So that's why I threw it in here. I thought it was connected. So
and you finally got to meet Eddie Muller.
Yes. Yeah. Nice guy. Very, very nice guy. I want to figure out how to volunteer for them. All right. So that's it for part 2 for Batman the Cape Crusader. If you want to suggest a topic, let us know in the comments. Email us at info@letmeknowhowitis.com. We're on Blue Sky as well. You can find us at LMKHII, reminding you that you can find links and examples to everything we talk about on letmeknowhowitis.com, where you can also find all of our past episodes. Just please, however you're listening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review, and follow us on social media, and be sure to come back for part 3 of Batman the Cape Crusader, our season review. And we'll see you there.